I thought the trail would be empty. The ranger station had been closed for the season, and the map online warned that very few people hiked this late in the year. That was the point. I wanted silence. No footsteps behind me, no distant voices drifting through the trees. Just wind, leaves, and my own breathing. For the first hour, that's exactly what I got. The forest was dense and old, the kind where the trees grow too close together and blot out the sky. My phone had lost signal before I even reached the trailhead, but I didn't mind. I had a compass, a paper map, and plenty of daylight. Or so I thought. It was when I passed the same split oak tree for the third time that I realized something was wrong. The oak was unmistakable. Its trunk split down the middle like it had been struck by lightning decades ago. I remembered brushing my hand against its bark earlier, feeling the deep grooves under my fingers. Seeing it again made my stomach tighten. I told myself I'd miscounted. Trails loop. Forests repeat themselves. Panic makes patterns where there are none. Still, I started walking faster. The light began to change, dimming in a way that didn't match the time of day. The forest grew quiet, not peaceful quiet, but the kind where even insects seemed to be holding their breath. My footsteps sounded too loud, crunching leaves echoing unnaturally far between the trees. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. Slow, careful, always stopping when I stopped. I spun around, heart hammering, but the trail behind me was empty. No movement, no snapped branches, just the path curling back into shadow. "Hello," I called, instantly regretting it. No answer. I told myself it was an echo. A deer. My imagination feeding on isolation. I kept going, but now I could feel it, the sense of being watched, like eyes pressed against the back of my skull. Then I noticed the footprints. They were mine. Same tread pattern, same worn heel, except they were deeper, pressed into the mud like whoever made them was heavier. And they didn't always line up with my steps. Sometimes they walked slightly off the trail. Sometimes they stopped altogether. Sometimes they turned around. My breathing turned ragged. I didn't remember turning around. The forest began to smell wrong, damp and sour, like rotting leaves and old water. I tried to check my compass, but the needle spun uselessly, clicking softly as if it couldn't decide where north was anymore. The footsteps came back, closer this time. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Something whispered my name. It didn't sound like a voice. It sounded like my own thoughts, pulled out of my head and spoken badly by something that had never used a mouth before. My legs shook, but they kept moving, carrying me down a trail that narrowed until branches scraped my arms like grasping fingers. The oak tree appeared again. This time, something stood beneath it. It looked like me at a distance. Same jacket, same backpack, same posture, but it was wrong. Its head tilted too far to one side, like it was trying to remember how a neck worked. When it smiled, the expression lagged, stretching slowly across its face. It opened its mouth. "I'm lost," it said, in my voice. I ran. I don't remember how long I ran or how I found the trailhead again. I just remember bursting out of the tree line, collapsing onto the gravel, gasping like I'd been underwater. When I looked back, the forest stood perfectly still, dark and silent, as if nothing had ever been wrong. I never went back. Sometimes, though, when I'm hiking somewhere familiar, I notice an extra set of footprints beside mine. Just a little deeper, just a little slower, and I never stopped to look behind me anymore.
I took the shortcut because the sign said it would save time. It was just a narrow spur branching off the main trail, barely worn, the dirt dark and soft like it hadn't seen many boots. I told myself that was normal. Trails fade, maps get outdated. I stepped onto it and felt the woods close in behind me, quiet as a held breath. The trees grew closer together the farther I went. My pack brushed bark on both sides. I kept walking because turning around felt strangely difficult, like the idea itself slid away before I could grab it. When I finally did stop, the silence pressed so hard it made my ears ring. That's when I noticed the trail was sloping up. Not steeply, just enough that my legs began to burn. I knew this area. There wasn't supposed to be a climb here. I told myself the map was wrong and pushed on, counting steps to stay calm. After a while, I saw a clearing ahead. In the middle of it was a weathered wooden post. No sign, no marker, just a post driven into the ground. I felt an immediate, unreasonable certainty that I was not supposed to pass it. I stepped past it anyway. The forest shifted. Not violently, subtly. The light dimmed, the air cooled, and the sounds I'd ignored before were gone entirely. I turned around. The post was gone. So was the trail. I stood in a circle of trees that all looked exactly the same, their trunks smooth and pale, spaced with deliberate precision. Panic crept in slowly, polite enough to let me think. I picked a direction and walked. Minutes passed, maybe more. The ground sloped down now, then leveled, then rose again, looping me back to the same clearing. This time, the post was there again. Something had been carved into it. Turn back sooner. My chest tightened. I reached out, touching the rough wood, and felt a vibration beneath my fingers, like a distant engine or a pulse. I stepped back. The post creaked. I ran. I don't remember finding the main trail. I only remember bursting out of the trees, gasping, hands shaking, sunlight too bright to be real. I didn't stop until I reached my car. Later, at home, cleaning mud from my boots, I noticed something stuck in the tread. A splinter of old wood, carved smooth on one side like it had been handled many times before.
I hiked to clear my head. That's what I told myself when I parked at the trailhead just after sunrise, shouldered my pack, and started up the mountain alone. The trail was familiar. Pine needles underfoot, damp earth, the distant sound of water moving somewhere downhill. Nothing felt wrong at first. About an hour in, I noticed the woods were too quiet. No birds, no insects. Just my boots and my breathing. I stopped walking, and the silence pressed in so hard it made my ears ring. Then I heard something move off the trail to my left. Heavy. Slow. Whatever it was, it didn't sound like a deer. I called out, something stupid like, "Hey!" and waited. Nothing answered. I laughed it off and kept going. That's when I saw the tracks. They crossed the trail ahead of me, pressed deep into the mud. 4 of them, like a dog's, but stretched wrong. The toes were too long, the heel pad too narrow. And they were big. Bigger than my open hand. I crouched to take a picture, then froze. The tracks didn't just cross the trail. They stopped on it, like whatever made them had stood there, facing the direction I was coming from. I straightened up and scanned the trees. That's when I smelled it. Wet fur and rot, like something that had been dead and crawling back to life. The smell got stronger the farther I walked until I realized it wasn't drifting. It was keeping pace with me. Branches snapped behind me. I didn't turn around. I told myself predators don't stalk humans like this. But the sound followed. Slow steps, deliberately placed, never rushing. Whenever I stopped, it stopped. When I walked, it walked. Then it made a noise. It tried to imitate my voice. Soft at first, like it was learning. I heard my own breathing echoed from the trees, warped and wet, the timing just slightly off. Then it whispered my name. I had never told anyone where I was hiking that day. I ran. The trail blurred, my lungs burned, and my pack slammed against my back. Whatever it was didn't chase me. Not exactly. I could hear it crashing through brush parallel to the trail, keeping up without effort. I tripped and fell hard. When I rolled onto my back, I finally saw it. It was shaped like a wolf, but wrong in ways my brain still struggles to explain. Its legs bent too many times. Its fur hung in patchy clumps over gray skin stretched too tight. Its eyes faced forward like a person's, pale and unblinking, and its mouth? It smiled, not baring teeth. Smiling. It lowered its head and spoke again in my voice, perfectly this time. "Don't run." I scrambled up and didn't stop until I reached the parking lot. My car door slammed, and I drove away shaking, not checking the mirror. That was 6 months ago. Yesterday, I found muddy tracks outside my apartment door. 4 of them, pointing inward.